All right,
Yeah, very
so
good.
I'm here with Stephen today. We'll introduce you in a sec, mate. And yeah, this real webinar is really about Stephen's story after he joined us and how he's gone from 0 to 130,000 a month during COVID. So it's a pretty incredible story, and I thought you guys get some inspiration from what he's done, and we'll run through the reasons why we're doing this and you know why in a little bit. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Dan Wardrope. I have paper lead agencies in the UK, Canada, and Asia, and I have an education program where we teach agencies, SEOs, affiliate marketers, and people like that to kind of move away from retainer contracts and dealing with the way they transact with clients the old way and moving them to the new model, which I believe is the future, which is pay per lead. And why am I doing this? Why am I sharing Stephen's story today? Well, Stephen's been posting a lot about his progress and journey in our private community, and he was getting a lot of PMs and wanting everyone to kind of share that. People were asking him a lot of questions, and he reached out and said, Dan, why don't we just do a bit of a webinar and we'll put it out to the whole community, not just the people that are in our program, but everyone else. So you can stop getting bugged, and he can just, forward this webinar onto them, and they can learn everything that he's been doing and why it's worked so well. Yeah, and I wanted to give people a look under the hood of, of what this looks like from a student's perspective, because sometimes, when I'm explaining what we do and how it works in our program, it's a bit different than having a student come in and explain how it works and what he's done and how he's made it work, because you've got more chance of believing a student rather than someone that's selling something. So I wanted to just show you what it looks like, how it works, and then you can hopefully get a different perspective on the pay per lead industry and why it's so great. And I also wanted to share what is possible when you follow the system step by step, as Stephen has. All right, so mate, it's over to you. You've got the reins now. You just tell me when to move the mouse and I'll do it. All right?
Yeah, no problem. Afternoon, evening, morning, depending on where you are in the world. Thanks, Dan, for giving me the opportunity just to have a quick chat with you guys. I think, yeah, the way that Dan introed this conversation is pretty much spot on. Not only from a stopping me getting messages point of view, like that's probably a nice byproduct of it, just because I am super busy. Yep. But I think from the perspective of being able to share a snapshot of right now for the legacy, and I think for brevity when we speak about the journey going later down the line and how we move forward, it's good to have a snapshot of what's happened in the time that's elapsed so far. And I think that's a valuable thing as well. So a little bit about me. This is me now. This is probably me and my son, Otis, who is 15, 16 months old in this picture. That was very recently. If we move to the next slide, you'll see this was me not too long ago. I had more hair, but other than that, I was a pretty stressed out agency owner. My background has always been marketing agencies and marketing in general. I studied at a university here in the UK, and then went into marketing departments for large corporate businesses, and then went into agency life, and has probably spent the better part of a decade in and around agencies, maybe a little bit longer now, and always working in that very traditional, very well-trodden path of retainers. And although this picture was taken as a joke for a piece of content, it probably does pretty well represent how I felt and have felt in a traditional retainer-based business for a long time. The battle of having clients, winning clients, really putting your all into those first few months to almost justify the fact that they stay with you, and constantly having to prove your worth, not from just a results-based element, but also prove your worth to them continuously and help in ways that really you shouldn't have to, like with sales process, like having to sort of pick up slack when their staff struggled. And I'd felt for a long time that retainer-based model was fundamentally flawed. And I think I'm probably paraphrasing a quote from Dan, but it always felt like it was on on a course to end the same way. Every relationship, or the vast majority of relationships, were always on a course for someone on either side of the divide to do something which led to a breakdown in relationship. And although that's not necessarily the rule, that's always the fear that was in the back of my mind, which ultimately left us susceptible to events like pandemics, like changes in legislation and those things, which just wasn't an enjoyable place to be. I have grown and continue to grow our agency to really good levels and spent a lot of time and effort on it, and had great staff and still have great staff, and we're doing okay. Like, don't get me wrong, our agency was in a decent position before PPL and before Flexxable and what have you, but the change in business model has allowed us to become a completely different beast, and in a really positive way. So if we move on to the next slide, my life was very hustle, and it was very, like, the picture with Gary Vaynerchuk there was on the back of a 3-day work sprint in London, and then went to an all-night Gary Vaynerchuk event, which didn't finish till about 1 a.m. And the picture underneath is with one of my clients, a guy called Nick Cheadle, who's a very well-known Aussie fitness professional. Traveling down to London from Manchester, which is a good 3-hour journey, to pick him up, drive back to Birmingham with him. Really work hard and do everything that we could to please clients and make sure they were happy with what we were doing. But it was going above and beyond what was reasonable and what was really fair. And my life changed dramatically. The picture on the right is me and my fiance in New York. I'd proposed to her that day. I'd flown out in secret and proposed to her on a bridge in the middle of Central Park. She didn't actually know I was in America. She thought I was still home in the UK. Surprised her and her mum were on the last day of their holiday, proposed, and we stayed for another couple of days. Lo and behold, that day was the day that my son was conceived, and our lives changed dramatically, literally that day.
Wow.
And that went from me having the ability and having the time to push 70, 80-hour weeks without really any other requirement than make sure I came home at some point to see my fiance or my girlfriend at the time, and they were the only real requirements on my time, to suddenly having a whole new soul to look after, a whole new person to look after and to see grow and change. And around sort of 6-ish months into my son being born and being in this world is when I started consuming Dan's content, the Flexxable content, and it really resonated with me. And it was something that I thought would work for us. If we move on to the next slide, this is kind of me now, although I've got less hair because I shaved it off during lockdown. I do a lot of work in a couple of different sectors. I mentor a number of people in a particular vertical, which is fitness. That was where my agency was spending a lot of time. And the flexibility that PPL and the course that the guys at Flexxable have put together has meant that we can spend time in lots of different areas and spend more time in those areas as well. I actually got a private message just before I came onto this webinar. So I hope the chap who messaged me, let me find it, can't remember his name off the top of my head. I hope the chap that messaged me is on. Amit messaged me. I hope he's on, because I said to him, his question was, what does the success that you had allow you to do? And I'll cover that in more detail in a sec, but it's allowed me to work on on things that we otherwise didn't have the time to do because I was fighting fires in a traditional retainer agency. So yeah, that's kind of a bit about me and my background. The way that I want to start this presentation and this sort of deep dive into what I've done as an agency owner in a PPL vertical starts with picking a niche, and that's something that I've seen in Dan's private client group and in you know, in the paper lead group and comments that I've had and seen on the YouTube channel, and guys who just messaged me on LinkedIn. And you know, this seems to be a reoccurring question. I'm sure Dan will agree. It's something that gets brought up really regularly across all of those verticals on a wider scope as well. And so what I wanted to do is talk you through how I picked my niche and how I found a vertical that had longevity for me. And on the next slide, I've got a couple of bullets, and I'll talk around those bullets a little bit. But the major thing that I did was picked a path that had the least resistance for me. So as I said to you before, my traditional agency, which is still, you know, very buoyant and still working well, was in fitness. But during the last 5 or so years, I've spent a lot of time mentoring business owners outside of the fitness industry and outside of the traditional industries that I'd worked in on just how to run marketing for themselves. I did quite a lot of what I'd class as strategy days, going into clients' businesses and spending days with them, figuring out how and what the best way of marketing would be. So I'd managed to have quite a broad spectrum of knowledge in different verticals, and I'd spent a lot of time looking at verticals on behalf of clients, which helped me to kind of figure a path and find a couple of niches where I had the least resistance possible in order to set up. And what I mean by that is I managed to look in my network and find particular verticals where I had friends or peers or colleagues or people that I'd worked with or spent time with who valued my advice, who I could then spend some time with to understand what the major drawbacks, positives, what the major buying signals and buyer personas were within these particular verticals, and then figure out how best to position an offer and position a product and a service. So I basically picked two verticals. I thought, based on the research that I'd done, based on looking at where consumer attention was, I was really passionate about going for a consumer-based pay-per lead model, because obviously the scope is much wider than a business-to-business one, and it just gave me much more in terms of a demographic to target. And I picked two products that were, you know, very widely wanted and very highly in demand, and that I knew there was already an appetite for leads. I knew that those verticals had lots of successful and not successful pay-per lead models, but I knew as well that if I did a good job, I could really make a go of it. So my research led me to, as I say, two really knowledgeable people in that sector who I could, you know, I went and bought them lunch. I went and spent some time with them. I bought them a gift, you know, I bribed them basically for the time. You know, I asked, you know, I didn't just drop them a PM and say, can I ask you all these questions with no possible benefit to you, apart from the fact that you're imparting your knowledge. I gave them an active reason to want to speak to me, and it was, look, can I buy you lunch? I wanted to have a chat with you about your vertical and what you do there, and have a bit of an understanding as to all of the things that I just mentioned. Who buys leads at what scope, at what scale, at what price point? What are the major drawbacks of buying leads in that space? What are the benefits of it? What are all the agencies or the businesses who are doing really well doing in that space? What are the ones that are failing or have high client turnover doing badly that I can fix, those types of things. And that gave me the framework for how I could potentially attract clients in, how I could position an offering, a service into those people, and then how I could commit to really working and treading a path. And then that kind of leads me on to my next sort of point in regards to niche, just that final point, Dan, sorry.
All right, yeah.
Which is committing to a decision. I spent probably, 3 weeks or so, 3-4 weeks or so doing my research and my due diligence on the particular niche that I'd chosen. And then I committed wholeheartedly to it. I went and we'll come on to sort of how I generated clients in a sec, but I went through the processes of the sales activity that I went through, and I really just pushed numbers. I wasn't afraid to make mistakes, mess up sales calls, mess up my emails. I had people kind of say, well, no, look, you're not, what you're offering isn't right. And one of the standout things that I actually remember on my cold email, we'll come on to sales now. If we move a couple of slides on, Dan, into sales. One of the things that I did through my cold emails was I had someone who was really interested in working with us via email exchange, and he asked to see some compliance documents, and I hadn't really spent that much time doing them because I was just in sales mode. I was just cracking on, and I kind of just said to him, "Oh, we've got some documents that are being prepared, and I can send you the boilerplate now." And this guy came back to me. You're fair play to him. He just didn't go cold on me. He came back to me and said, "Well, look, based on what you've sent me, this isn't going to be right. You've not, these are the things that you failed on." And I asked him some questions, and I said, "Look, I appreciate you giving me this feedback. Can you, give me some extra info as to what you would want to see in order to work with a client like mine?" And I learned from that mistake and tweaked what we were doing, spent some more time in the course that Dan's put together, because all of this stuff was already covered. I just jumped the gun and got straight into sales and not really thought about those other areas, and then honed my offer to make sure that we never had that problem again. But I could only do that by really hitting the numbers and pushing forward with the campaigns that we work through. So in terms of sales, I'll jump the first 2 points and just talk to you about the results first and foremost. Since we started really pushing our agency services, I'd booked that 140 was based on the slides being written this weekend. I've actually probably done this week alone, probably on Thursday. I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 calls on Monday. I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 calls on Tuesday. I only did 1 call yesterday. I blocked out a bit of time yesterday for other work. So, that's probably more like 150, 152 calls so far.
Yep.
And completed maybe, 110 or so, and we've just onboarded 2 new clients already this week. One sort of 34 plus clients on orders of 50 or more leads. 2 orders this week are for 100 as a trial. And I did that by just going out and really just putting a spade in the ground and starting work, not getting caught up in the nuances and the details about which email service provider to use and which data scraping tool to use, or which, what my URL should be for my emails. These are things that, as a buyer of leads, so someone sat on the other side of the table to me, they really don't care about any of those things. And as a agency owner going out and trying to win new clients, I get it can catch you up and you can obsess about these details, but the obsession over those details are only going to limit your ability to make money and make sales. And those are the things that ultimately feed our business and allow us to grow and allow us to make the business decisions and the life decisions that we want to. It's by actively finding people who want to buy from us, and getting caught up in those minutiae actually counterproductive to growing an agency. Although they may seem important right now, you know, which data scraping tool you use, which email service provider, what your URL is, mean very, very little, especially right at the start of your journey. So one of the really useful tools that we used in my agency to generate sales leads was anyleads.com. It's a really useful tool that does lots and lots of different things, but we used it for cold email more than anything else. So we got data from LinkedIn and we emailed our target demographic in the niche that we'd chosen. I use G Suite as my email sending service just because it's cheap, it's quick, it's very simple to set up. Even I can do it. We do have a developer this end, but for speed, I did it. You know, I bought the domain, I set up the email system, I set it up on anyleads. We used a URL that wasn't one that we used for our website. So, you know, cold email, whilst it's not against CAN spam and GDPR regulations, people can, you know, mark an email address as spam if they're not happy with being cold emailed, even though business to business cold email is completely fine from those two perspectives. People can report an email address as spam. So we used a URL that we weren't too bothered about being burnt slightly. And we just went out and hit, I think at the last count, we'd scraped 11,000 contacts from LinkedIn and emailed every single one of them that we could find an email for. I think it's probably not too far off the 10,000 or 9,000 email addresses mark. We sent out 500 to 750 emails a day using the templates that Dan gave us in the course, verbatim, apart from the areas that needed changing. And we booked, let me just pull up my stats on these. We booked we booked 70, we had 72 replies from our email and booked 38 calls out of that 140 plus, and made 10 sales from those. So like one in 4, 1 in 3, roughly, somewhere in that marker, bought from us from cold email. So, you know, in terms of cost, even in terms of time cost, any leads cost me $99 a month. Time was probably 4 or 5 hours, even if I do that at my usual rate that I charge when I go out and spend time in people's businesses, 2,000 a day. It cost me, you know, £1,100 roughly in terms of time and actual hard cost for any leads. And we sold 30,000 to 40,000 worth of leads from cold email. And once we had that, we proved concept, we proved that we could go out and sell. That's when we then moved into spending some actual money, so running ads for ourselves. Now, people's skill set and prowess at running ads will differ on this call. The great thing about Dan's course is that there's, you know, from a beginner advice all the way through, which will give you a real sort of breakdown as to how to run ads, which is great. But from that perspective, we knew that we could run ads and bring in calls, but it was a really simple process. It was add to book a call with us, that was it. And we booked a hell of a lot of calls in that time. And the ROI from, I mean, we're getting calls booked now for our particular niche for £8 to £12. We only need to close one in 100, 200 maybe to break even, but we're obviously doing much better than that. And the key thing that I want you to take away from these numbers aren't for me to kind of show off or look like we're really great or anything like that. These numbers are to show that A, it's possible for someone with very little in the way of experience in a particular niche. We had no actual life knowledge or historical knowledge of running leads in this space. We've done some slight tests with the partners that I'd mentioned previously, to just prove concept, but we had no real scale of experience. It's very easy using the techniques that are taught and through cold email and through running ads to get people on the phone, talk to them about the service that you offer, and get them to commit on even on small orders of 50 or 100 leads, and then failing fast, making mistakes, learning during that sales process. If I've booked, like I said to you this week, probably 10, 15 calls already completed this week, if I mess up one of those sales pitches, it doesn't actually have that much of an impact because I've got the volume of calls there for it to make a difference to me and a difference to my business. Whereas if I'm, tentatively sort of emailing one or two people and, only one person books a call with me and I only get on the phone with one of them and mess that call up, or if I don't do my best on that sales call, that's my entire sales opportunity's gone. It's going to be difficult for us to scale the business to a point where we want them to. And ultimately that's the goal, is to bring in leads and bring in clients at scale that we can offer our services to and really create an agency of substance. And that was the whole goal with me with PPL. So if we flick to the next.
I think if I just jump in quickly here, I mean, it's amazing what you've done. But I think what everyone listening has to realize is that it makes it so much easier to sell an offer that converts. The whole premise of what we do, whether it be running the offers we run ads for or landing clients or whatever, it's just so much easier because we have an offer that converts, right? It's very easy to land a client when you offer them leads. And you've probably heard me say that like a broken record over and over again, but until you actually get in front of people and put that offer in front of them, you're not going to realize how easy it is to have those sales conversations. And this is proof in the pudding, right? I mean, compared to what you were doing before, it's just a piece of cake. So you've done 103 calls and you've converted 32 clients. What about the other, the 70? What happened to those guys?
If that was, it's just on those numbers, if that was agency retainer, I probably would have converted maybe 2 or 3. Because the traditional model would just be, it's just so less appealing. It's, you sign up for 3 months, pay me a big, then this isn't a criticism of anyone else's model, because this was my model. It was pay me a couple of grand, setup fee, pay me, a few grand a month plus either a percentage based on ad spend if we got over a certain amount or what have you. And pay me that and sign up. You've got to commit to that for the next 6 months, with no real results-based driver for me, ultimately, to succeed.
And the setup's much faster as well, right? I'm sure you might touch on whether you built brands or did one-to-one to begin with in a sec.
Yeah.
But it's that, like with the old way of doing things, you would have to get access to their URL. You would have to speak to their web devs, their marketing department. You would have to tweak their landing pages or whatever. With what you've done here, you've already got a lead generation brand. All you have to do is take the invoice, tweak something in lead buy, and then they can get leads within an hour, right? Which is we attractive as well.
In our agency model, we would build out a planner. So we had a Gantt chart. And our Gantt chart would say anywhere up to 60 days to set up and get live. With PPL and what we do now, as soon as the invoice is paid, we're live the next working day. So clients, literally we've had clients pay today. I need to check the bank when we finish this call because my assistant sent out 2 invoices. They could go live tomorrow if they wanted. They've asked us for Monday, but they could literally go live tomorrow. So that helps. If I was to take on 32 clients at any other time of my business being around, we would become completely swamped. We wouldn't have got anything done. We wouldn't have been able to scale. That would be impossible for us to do. But now with this model, it makes it so much easier. I can take 2 clients on today, have them live for Monday with ultimate confidence that they'll go live with the right sort of strategy and the right assistance from my team and what have you. So yeah, absolutely makes a massive difference. So if we skip through to Next slide, process. So as Dan kind of mentioned, we did what's called called one-to-one delivery, where we were using the client's brand to start off with, just so we could kind of figure out what we were doing. It was mainly for compliance as well. It was so we could fail fast. You know, I said it before, we could make the mistakes that we needed to, while still giving the client an element of result, but the cost per lead wasn't as important to us as it would be when we were using our own money. So we could afford to be paying slightly more per lead because the client was getting every single one, and it wasn't a case of us, you know, we'll spend $3,000 to get 100 leads through and they'd be happy with that. Whereas, you know, we maybe want to be cheaper if we were spending our own money on it. So it allowed us to get some ideas about what would happen. We were paid on the back end plus a small upfront for that initially. It was a bit of a stab in the dark. We kind of made the figures up slightly. We used a formula and kind of just went out with it and just said, cool, well, this is what could work for us. Are you happy with this, Mr. Client? They said, yes. We're still getting paid off those leads now, which is great. We're still getting commissions off those leads now. So it was a worthwhile endeavor, but it was always a testing phase. We would never now go to a new client and offer this sort of one-to-one hybrid model. It was just allowed us to learn and make mistakes and fail in order to then grow and be able to go out with some confidence on those calls. We then moved into developing our own brands. Within my team, we've got a writer and a couple of writers and media buyers. I've got a graphic designer that I hire in for projects, who's really, really good. And I knew that we could create strong brands just because of the skill set that you know I've got personally and that our team have had. And I knew that it wouldn't take us a lot of time or effort in order to create something of substance. So we started the process of creating a brand and a brand name that, you know, my goal is to have it become as household a name as some of the other sort of household names in our niche, the Compare the Markets or the money supermarkets of this world. We wanted it to become that level of brand. So we created these brands and spent some time and some effort on them. And the reason that I wanted to do that is because ultimately that then means every penny that we spend, every cent that we spend on ad spend, sending leads into our brand and through to our clients, is also then a pound that could be assigned to building the value of that brand, building its exposure to the general public. You know, every pound that we spend that might result in a couple of clicks, but gets, you know, X 100 impressions, every impression is valuable to me because it means that someone else has seen that brand, whether they acted on it or not. They've seen it, they will associate it with the services that we offer, and whether they buy from us right now or they buy from us in or make an inquiry with us in 6 months or 12 months, or if they never do, they still will have that brand recall, which means that it's been a worthwhile spend on those impressions. And that was always something that seemed to me like a really, really sensible way to move, is to spend my own money on, you know, the ad spend that we've got, or the ad spend that our clients have given us, in order to build our own brands and make our own brands more powerful. Because then, frankly, you know, if Compare the Market, or if another business come to us and say, oh, listen, we like what you've done, we want to buy you, great, we've got a saleable asset there where we can make an exit. And that was the other thing, is, look, can we create something that will potentially have an exit in a period of time? Because if we do it once and we can sell something as a tangible asset, then there's no reason why we can't do that again and again and again.
Yeah. I tell you what. I mean, I think that building a brand and having it as a sellable asset is something that we don't think about enough. I mean, I reckon, you know, my personal opinion, if we hired a content writer full time for a year, I don't know, that might be £30,000 in the UK or whatever, and they did a blog every day for a year for your brand, imagine that, first of all, you would get more than £30,000 worth of free leads coming into your business. And secondly, you'll be ranking organically for a very long time, because most of these people in your industry are not spending time doing this type of thing. So you're going to have an extremely valuable business in a year. You know, just one SEO person, 30K, do a blog, 7 blogs a week, 365 days a year. Imagine the scope there. That's a good investment, I reckon.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's, you know, from an organic perspective, just adds so much value. You know, we as part of the course, obviously we use advertorials and we use that sort of writing, but just posts that we can use for our brand pages on social and blogs which are SEO friendly, that we can just build into this brand and create this persona that then just becomes a saleable asset, as you said. You know, the free leads is just a nice another real good string to the bow. But creating something that someone wants to give me 6 figures, 7 figures for in X amount of time is also where we see the value. And then that parent brand, we then offshoot into other sub niches. Like we've gone down some commercial routes, we've gone into insurances, we've gone into different things that all sit under that parent brand, in order then to maximize our opportunities, because they were complementary to our main sector. So you're running the brand.
Sorry, mate. Are you creating new URLs, or are you running to just different funnels on the same brand?
So it depends on the subsector, but some of them are getting new URLs for specifics, like commercial. That was something that went specific. It had to be, like insurance, that had to be more specific. But then some of the other sub niches that we've got into really heavily have sat under the parent brand and on the parent URL, because it's just another type of our main product. So yeah, that's. But again, they'll all sit under this umbrella brand. And then to deep dive more into our ads process, I think someone asked a question about this, so it's on the slide, which is great. And our sales process as well. We run social, so Facebook and Instagram, through to a landing page, which is, you know, I'm no copywriter. I wouldn't profess to be sort of an expert in copy. It's very sort of rough and ready copy that one of my writers went over again just to make sure it hit the narrative that we wanted. But you know, it's something that I wrote in a couple of hours, sat in between feeds with my son, into Calendly, and then into a thank you page.
This is your sales process to get clients, right?
To get new clients, correct. One of the things that I'll tell everyone on the call right now, which I think not enough people do, is thank you page framing. And this is a big thing that allowed us to really get the success that we've had from calls. So on the thank you page, I have a very short video which tells the prospect what's going to happen next once they book the call, and sort of frames their ideas about how the call is going to go, what they can expect from me. It's me speaking on camera, so it kind of makes them feel comfortable and familiar with us too, and with speaking to me. So when I pick up the phone and introduce myself, they already understand the tone of my voice. They know who I am. They've already kind of had a conversation with me, although they've not. And that really helps me to get the success that we've had on sales calls. So add landing page, book a call, thank you page with a framing video. Then there's some SMS and email follow up before the call, just kind of confirming the appointment, confirming the time, etc., etc. We also put a bit of social proof about the fact that we can do the job that we say we can into those emails. And then my sales calls are like on the button, strict as you like, 30 minutes. I've never had one go over half an hour. And it's straight in, some qualification, some fact find, some sort of active listening as to information they give me, and then add that into the sales pitch. The sales process is very, very regimented, but I add the active listening part of what they've told me into that pitch. And I, pretty much presumptively close on that call and say, look, everything you told me, you've hit all the boxes that we ticked. Where do you want my assistant to send your onboarding information to? And that's when my assistant takes over from that point. She sends out a follow-up email, which is, confirms everything we've spoken about over the phone, confirms our pricing, confirms what our leads will look like, the client's responsibility, our responsibility, and then asks for some information back in order to draw up an invoice, draw up a contract. And from that point, I have zero involvement with the client. My team take over, and by team, I've got 2 people who work on this onboarding, and these are jobs that could be sourced to a VA. They're not super technical, very labor intensive processes. My team are in person because that's how I like to run my business. I like to work with people, but this could very easily be done by a VA, very low cost, but it's, they use our system to create invoices, get paid. Once we're paid, we use Leadbyte as our distribution software, which is run by a really great guy called Anthony, who are actually local to me. They're a couple of miles down the road, which has been really helpful because we can kind of have a chat with them off the cuff when we need to. They set up on Leadbyte, and as Dan and I sort of alluded to before, a new client pays me today, I could have leads to them tomorrow, which is that's such a massive win to a client. Is like, you pay for something now, tomorrow you'll start getting the return on that investment. You'll start getting leads that day. And that's just such a big win for them, because if they've been pitched that traditional retainer model, or they've been pitched SEO, or they've been pitched Yellow Pages advertising, or back of the paper advertising, whatever it might be, or even digital marketing in other realms, it's always it's a 6-month commitment, Mr. Prospect. And, it'll take us a month or 2 to start working the bugs out. But then once you're there, you'll be really scaling up. There's none of that. There's none of that sort of fear. We make it very clear in our documentation we send out and the conversations we have with clients that if we don't hit the quota of leads that you asked for and you purchased, we'll give you the money back as an ad hoc amount. So we only hit 90%, we'll give them 10% of the money back, what have you. We never have had to do that because we always hit our numbers, of course, but we give them that satisfaction, that feeling, and that's actually outlined in our contracts. So there's no risk. We reverse all of the risk for the client. It's like, look, we're a performance-based marketing agency. You only pay, or you only are charged, or you're not paying unless we get the results that you want, and that's the big win for them. So yeah, if we skip on to the next slide.
One question. I mean, you've obviously got a team that sits behind you, relatively small team, but it's still a team. What do you feel like the one-man band agencies that are listening to this, what do you think they can achieve themselves, and how would it change?
They could achieve everything that I've done and more. The reason that I've got a team is, and the reason that I've used my team is because we have a traditional legacy business which has clients that I needed to service. So we had the bandwidth to pass a lot of the workload to my team. But being honest, that's only workload that I didn't have the time or the inclination to do that I could have easily done myself. I work in 30-day sprints, primarily with new business ideas. So I'll do 30 days of just working on it completely on my own to make sure that I can prove concept. And that's what I did during that sort of hybrid bringing on clients. I did everything. I did the onboarding, I did the campaigns, I did the build outs, I did the ads, I did the landing page, I did all the writing, I did the sales calls, I did the contracts, did the invoicing, and everything for 30 days to make sure that it was something that we wanted to do long term. Because the last thing I want to do is build out a load of SOPs and build out a load of processes for my staff, and then we only do it for half a year, 30 days, 60 days, and then I've wasted loads of time teaching it. So I always do everything myself for a minimum of 30 days. I then get my team to help to see how easily parts of that task can be delegated. And then the last part, which I still haven't done yet because I'm enjoying it so much, the last part is then I let the team deliver autonomously without any of my input to see what breaks so we can fix it. We're still in that middle stage right now, and I'm still really enjoying it. And I don't know whether I will go completely autonomous with it, but there's no reason why sort of a owner-managed, owner-operated one-man band couldn't do as well and do as much as I have. The reason that my team got involved is because we had, you know, clients to service in our traditional agency still, so I had the bandwidth to give them.
Yeah, cool. I've just seen a few questions coming in. We'll just to them all at the end. But one thing we can answer now, Steve Hawkins has asked, how do you get the leads for your clients within 24 hours? Well, Stephen Craven already has a brand set up, so he'll have XYZ brand in his vertical, and it's already, you know, generating hundreds of leads a day via Facebook ads or whatever ad platform he's using. All he has to do is up the spend a little bit and then use LeadBite to switch on to create a new client and then distribute that lead, their quota. So it's just one ad account, one brand, and just using the distribution software that we talk about within our program, which is usually LeadBite, that just does that for you. So yeah, pretty simple really. And that it doesn't even have to be a day. It can be, as soon as they've paid, you can switch them on. Literally 5 minutes. So
literally, if they if we wanted to, we could have sent them leads today, but they've asked us for Monday, but we could have easily sent them a lead already today.
Yeah, cool. All right, so this is the process for after they've said yes, right?
Yeah, so invoice gets paid, contract gets sent out, as I mentioned. We used to do onboarding calls, so I'd ring them and talk them through things. Now, because we've done this 30 plus times, we've actually created a set of onboarding videos, which makes it super easy for them to kind of see what's going to happen. So we walk them through a demo version of one of our funnels. We talk them through how the lead's going to be distributed, what information a prospect's going to see. We talk them through all of that. So what I want to do with our clients is make them excited to get our leads. I don't want to be seen as another number. I want to be seen as doing more than their other suppliers. And that's why we created this suite of videos and what have you, so that they feel like, wow, the guys over there at Stephen's company know exactly what they're doing, and they know that they're super professional, but they're going the extra mile for us. Because then if we tend to send them to the sales team or the salesperson that will be dealing with the leads as well, because then they're going to be super excited when they see the lead drop in, and they're going to be like super on it and motivated to ring them. If anyone's seen the film Glengarry Glen Ross and they talk about the Glengarry leads, they're in the special box and they're kind of positioned at the front of the office, and you only got those for closers. You know, it's all perception. And, you know, having managed sales teams throughout my career, I know that perception of lead quality is really important. So that's why we do this. It's a set of, 3 videos, probably took me 15 minutes to record. We branded them up with a logo on them and this, that, and the other. So they don't feel rough and ready. They feel professional, but it, maybe cost me $15, $20 on Fiverr to get them done. And we send them through to each client, and that makes a massive difference. And as I say, then build them as a buyer in LeadBite, first lead within 24 hours. And like we reiterated before, the speed of which someone buys from us and sees leads from us, I should say, is what really sells. That's what really sells them on us and our service.
Yeah, and that's not unique to you, really. That's unique to anyone that's doing pay-per-lead. It's just so easy to do.
Absolutely.
All right, so what are you using to do all of this?
Yeah, so, and I kind of listed these in almost order of which they're used. So we use AnyLeads, as I said, in G Suite to send our emails and get our cold emails out. We use WordPress to build our landing pages for the agency, just because it's what my developer was used to. We use Calendly to book calls, ActiveCampaign to send our emails, and then my management for my staff is Slack and Trello. We use Slack like Wikipedia, so we have a channel for all of our onboarding. We have a channel for ad campaigns. We have a channel for troubleshooting, which are all searchable. So then if my staff have a problem, they can go into Slack and search it as opposed to asking questions. So it just creates that self-service mentality, especially during lockdown. We're not in the same office. So having something where they can just help themselves to information was really key. And we use Trello for specific tasks. Canva's a massive, massive benefit to my business because, we've got a designer in-house. You can sit there and do Photoshop files and what have you. But, I'll tell you now, my designer has worked for GQ, doing front covers of GQ. They're super talented, but they still use Canva for like 90% of the stuff that we do because it's quick, it's easy, they can get something done, downloaded, it's on my desk within 10 minutes of me asking, as opposed to create the PSD. So Canva is super useful, and with all the animation tools that they're using, bringing in right now, it's even more powerful than it used to be. For our lead generation site, it's custom built in as much that my developer has coded it ourselves because we've got an in-house dev. It made more sense for us to do it that way than any other, just because it was for speed more than anything. It would take him longer to learn something like Unbounce than it would be for him to just do it ourselves. But if I had my time again and we didn't have the developer, I would use like an Unbounce or a Lead Pages or ClickFunnels or something like that. But it just was quicker for me specifically. And then we use LeadsHook, Twilio, Postcoder as part of our funnel, and then Leadbyte to distribute our software. Out of all of those things put together, apart from Leadbyte, because of obviously the scale of my operation now with 32 clients, all of those things bar Leadbyte will cost me under $200 a month, probably. Maybe $250 at a push. And so it's a very low cost center business. Which is great, having ran an agency with and worked in agencies with 90 plus staff, having such a low cost center business is amazing. So that's the tech stack. They're all self-serve items. They're all no code solutions, obviously, apart from our website. They're not complicated things to use at all. I built our existing funnel as it stood for the first 30 days. And then my guys redid it based on me proving concept. So if I can do it, although, I've run agencies and what have you, I am not by any means a technical genius. I'm pretty single finger typing type guy. But if I can do it, then anyone can. So that was our tech stack.
Cool. Well, people might be worried about having a custom built site and all that type of stuff, but within the program, we actually have pre-built brands that you can use yourself that clients love. Your clients will love to see, and it'll help sell. And we also have all of the lead gen funnels that sit behind it. So our funnels that actually help you generate the leads. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel when it comes to what those landing pages look like. I think
absolutely.
What Stephen did was basically take our templates and just rebuild them in his own way.
Yeah, that's exactly what we did. For the first period when I was doing everything myself, I used specifically the templates that you've given me on the software that you recommend in the course. Yeah. We proved concept. Once I proved concept, I then said to John, my developer, I was like, look, John, this is working, but I need you to make the changes on it. Do you want to use Unbounce or do you want to build it yourself? He said, I'll build it myself. It'll make it easier for administration. So that's what we did.
Nice. All right, cool. Partners, what's this all about?
Yeah, so this is like how we're now scaling heavily. Like we still run ads and we still bring leads in. We still do cold email. I've just brought in another 3,000 or 4,000 email addresses from a data house for us to go out and cold email. But one of the big step changes and one of the things that we're doing going forward now is finding people who we can partner with in order to really scale out our operation. So I've gone to where buyers of my leads already hang out. So I found a really great Facebook group where 2,000 of my ideal client are already there. They're already in a group which is really engaged. It's a closed group, but you can see what activity goes on in those groups. So I just spent some time on Facebook looking for groups where my ideal client already was. And then I approached the admins of those groups and I said, look, do you have a partner for this? Do you have a preferred supplier? What's your process for marketing to your members of your group or members of your platform or whatever it may be? And I was dead honest with them and said, look, we provide this service. This is why I think we're great. Could we potentially come in and do some content, help out, and potentially offer some services to your clients? And some of them said no, as you can probably imagine, but some said yes. And some, I didn't go in, look, I want to come and sell leads to your partners and your members. I said, look, can I provide some content, provide some advice, and provide some insight into what I think these guys should be doing if they want to market themselves, if they need help with their marketing, or what they should be looking for in marketing partners. And then if any of them want to work with me, I'll gladly talk to them about it. And that got me in front of so many more, and will continue get me in front of so many more people quickly than I could do, just by doing sales calls. If there's 2,000 in there, 10% of them watch my, 30-minute presentation on what a modern lead generation partner should be doing in order to get you the best quality of leads, for example. And that's 200 pitches that I've done in half an hour, as opposed to, it's spending the next 3 weeks on the phone. And that was the way that and we plan to do more of this now, because we proved concept again, is go into these places where the buyers are, incentivize them either through cash, like finding partners who will refer you clients and they want a commission, or incentivizing them to help them run their groups or their businesses more effectively. There's so many networks and groups out there that are crying out for content because from outside third parties, because of the fact that the admin staff in those particular groups or those particular networks have just exhausted all of their content ideas and have just been repeating the same information over and over again. That if an outsider comes in and tells their clients or their members the exact same thing, but in a different tone, a different way, it suddenly re-engages that group. So there's so many of those groups or networks out there that I can go out to and offer support to. And as I said, it gets me in front of so many more people than I could do just doing my sales calls. So that's why we went out there. And then from a partner perspective, we've got some referral partners who will, in other countries and in the UK, who will refer new clients to us. We'll pay them a commission based on the amount of leads that are ordered. One order of 100 leads is worth, between 4.5 and 7 grand to me. So I can afford to give a reasonably healthy commission to a referral partner for that client. And that referral partner, I paint them the picture, it's completely passive income for them. They don't have to manage the client, they don't have to manage the relationship, they don't have to run any ads, they don't have to do anything apart from refer them to me. So if they can refer me partners and I can give them a referral income from that, it benefits all parties, especially them, because they're in effect just connecting people with me. So people who've got previous experience, I approached a guy who I actually met at a football game, funnily enough. He'd sold a business in my niche, and he's 55, 60 years old. He'd sold a business in my niche for 7 figures, doesn't really do anything anymore apart from consult. So I approached Malk and said, look, Malk, can you be a referral partner for me? I'll pay you a commission on every client that you send us, and we'll give you lifetime commissions on them. So you'll get commissions for as long as they stay. So for him, it's a no-brainer. So I found those people who've got positions of authority in my particular niche and offered our services to their network as part of a deal with them. And that's helping us and will continue to help us to bring clients in from maybe a non-traditional channel, and really help us to scale out our operation even further.
Nice. All right.
So yeah,
what's been
yeah. Struggle, like, I know that it might seem that everything's gone super well and I'm sort of some sort of guru genius, and that's definitely not the case. I've struggled with a number of things in the last sort of 4 or 5 months or so since we've been in the program, and I think what's helped is A, the support network that Dan's created, and B, being able to kind of just get out of my own head more than anything. Time management's a big one for me. As I mentioned before, I've got a 16-month-old now, who is demanding, I'd say is the right word. And, you know, with lockdown and what have you, my fiance has been, you know, fair play to her. She's spent a lot of time with the baby over the last 3 or 4 months, and really helped us out, and really helped me out and the business out by picking up all of that sort of extra time that I just couldn't spend at home, because I had, you know, immediate responsibilities here in the agency. But as well as that, kind of focusing my attention on the things that were business critical. You know, the reasons that I said about kind of not obsessing over URLs and that type of thing is because they're the mistakes that I've made before. And that's why I was so sort of direct about sort of not spending our times on those minutia of details, because they're things that I could and would spend time on previously, and they're things that don't serve me that well.
The people are coming to the program that struggle, and there are people who are coming to the program that struggle. They're the perfectionists, the guys that have to tick every box and cross every T and dot every I until they get going and start selling. And that can sometimes take these guys 6 weeks. You know, they're in the program and they haven't even had haven't even tried to have one sales call after 6 weeks. And I'm just like, guys, it's just, you know, start selling. Sales make the world go. Yeah.
Well, it sharpens your axe, and it sharpens your focus into getting things done. If suddenly someone's giving you some money and they're expecting a transfer leads in a certain amount of time, and that's what I found. I don't know if Dan remembers my first coaching call that I came on, and I kind of said, well, what happens, what if I can't get the leads? And your words were to me pretty much verbatim were, the leads are not the thing you need to worry about. You'll get the leads, just make the sales. And you were right. You know, I went out and we sold to our first client that week. We bought another few more on. And yeah, that's what got us the results that we needed. So yeah, ready, fire, aim is the mantra that I've decided to live by, is just get going and then start refining as you go.
It's like jump out of a plane and figure out how to open the parachute as you're going down like that. That's just what being a business owner is like, and an entrepreneur is like. Sometimes you just got to figure stuff out as you go. It's not, it just doesn't work going the other way around. And then, you know, as I mentioned before, a traditional business in a retainer model, we still have clients to service, coaching, my own family, lockdown, staff, all those things, led to, a really overwhelming time. And for me, it was spend some time out of my office, spend some time away from the home. Difficult during lockdown, walked quite a lot. And then in the last few months, since the golf courses have opened, back to golf a little bit more, spending something where I can turn off a phone. You know, my screen time, especially during those first couple of months of lockdown, was 8-9 hours a day. Literally 9 hours a day sat in front of a computer or on a phone, which isn't great for anyone. But that was what was needed to be done at that point in my life. But now, you know, I build in time for either going for a walk during the day in the office, going to golf, spending some time with the baby where the phone is completely away. We've actually got an iPhone which hasn't got any SIM in it and doesn't connect to the internet, just to take photos of the baby. So we've got digital photos of him, and that's it. And we use that in the house to take photos and videos of the baby, and that's it for us. We put the phones away at the back end of the day and spend, you know, a couple of hours of quality FaceTime with the little man. And those things were super useful to me to start building into my day. And then from a niche perspective, the terminology
in sectors can be confusing, you know, acronyms and off-the-cuff comments of phraseology, which were just second nature to my clients, just didn't make any sense to me at all. And I guess the fear of coming across inferior meant that I wasn't asking the questions. So again, it was just doing some work. I wrote down a lot of these phrases and terminologies that were being bandied around, which I wasn't 100% on, Googled a few, and then, you know, sometimes you find relationships with clients where people are you know, you find some people that you have an affinity with. And for me, we had a client came on, a guy called David, who was a lovely guy, small business, but just a really affable chap. And I just asked him, I just said, really honestly, look, David, you know, I've worked in the sector for a little bit of time now, but I've got all of these things that people are saying to me, and I don't know exactly what these things mean. Can you help me? And I just asked for help, and he was more than happy to spend 10, 15 minutes on the phone. And that 10, 15 minutes had built up over the last sort of 3 or 4 months, where I was like, oh, I really need to understand these things. And it was a big sort of bugbear for me, but in 15 minutes, I dispelled all of those issues because I asked a question, and asking questions, you know, within the paper league group, within Dan's private group for Flexxable students, you know, there's no such thing as a stupid question, and those areas alone are super useful. And then just asking your clients as well really helped me.
Yeah, nice.
And then, sorry, go on, mate.
No, that's fine. I was just saying, yeah.
Yeah, and then finally, if I was doing it all again, I'd spend more time on the Flexxable calls and in the Flexxable group. I'm not a huge Facebook user as a rule of thumb. Anyway, it's my Facebook is and always has been, at least for the last few years, very much a business tool as opposed to like a passive place to spend time. So I think, but those resources, the paper league group, which I was in for a period of time before I bought the course, and then the course section of the Facebook group was super useful. And still now, like now I do, even if it's just to spend a little bit of time and look in there and try and help some of the other members in there, or ask some questions myself. I try and spend, you know, 10, 15 minutes a day just checking if there's anything I can assist with, or if there's any assistance I need in that group, because there's some super smart people in there, much smarter than I. You know, I'm nothing special by any stretch of the imagination. There's some super smart people in all of those groups which have helped me. And then the final thing I would go and find more referral partners. I'd go and see if I could get some more people sending easy sales through to me, because those referral partners are they're the Glengarry leads. They're the things that the guys that just buy in really large quantities, trust their referral, and have become really key clients of ours. So I'd do that. I'd do more of that, and we'll continue to do more of that.
Fun. I mean, we haven't even touched on this. I think you brought into the program just before COVID, right? Maybe a couple of months before COVID hit, and you didn't really get started. You didn't really get started until after COVID hit, right?
Yeah, pretty much a month. So I think I started it the first week or so in February. So I actually bought the program then. And then, like you say, into March, started really sort of getting to grips. And then, like, I don't mind sharing this with the group, but my existing niche took a big hit with lockdown. We lost a big chunk of monthly recurring revenue at that point. So we needed to scale up another operation, and we started the hybrid sort of deal with one client, and we had some other things on the back burner. But as lockdown became more and more apparent it was going to happen, and you know, we started seeing a few missed invoices from my existing niche and what have you, that's when we went really gung-ho at it. So sort of early March time. Yeah.
Well, it's just incredible, really. And I think, you know, there's lots of different ways to make money online at the moment. And, you know, there's the education angle, which I know you're kind of doing yourself, and I'm obviously doing the education angle as well. But the pay-per lead and adding value to, you know, clients and businesses is just such a great business model, because you can start from scratch, you know, and get going very, very quickly. You don't have to build an 8-week program, and you don't have to, you know, have students to mentor and all that type of stuff, which is hard work, right? Tell me about it. What we have here is a business model which is so fast and quick and lightweight that it just blows a lot of the other opportunities out of the water, just for ease of setup and how quickly you can get going. And what you've done here is testament to, you know, exactly that. It's incredible to see what you've done. So congratulations, mate.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
So where are you going?
Yeah. So next steps, new niche. We moved into the commercial finance space early part of this month. So, back end of last month, and that's gone really well. Good clients buying relatively good volume, but at high price points. The leads cost that we're charging is pretty high for the cost that it's bringing the leads in, but the quality is definitely there, and the remuneration is definitely there. So we want to move into another niche in another B2C sector. I think that those ones for me feel like where you can have the most impact at scale. I think there's the B2B ones are great for cash and sort of easy, low stress cash. I think to have real impact and grow to really high levels, I think B2C ones are the big ones. So that's where I want to do one more sort of product and service into that niche. As I said at the top of this webinar, I'm still doing all of our sales calls. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 tomorrow. So that'll be sort of 20 or so I'll have done this week. So the plan is to bring in a salesperson with industry experience into the business. So we're going to, really look at that and bring someone in who can take that workload from me, so I can then just focus on working in the business as opposed to on it, that old chestnut. But yeah, I'm going to look at bringing a salesperson on. And then North America and Canada, we've got a couple of partners that we're tentatively speaking to over there to kind of be our commission-only salesperson, I guess is the best way of describing it, and help us to scale out our operation there, because it's such a huge sector, not only from a consumer perspective, but from buyers as well. So we've got some really, really good potential over there. So they're the next steps.
Nice. 10 times the audience. 10 times the
audience.
Yeah,
10 times the audience, 10 times the amount of buyers, lots of opportunity, and just a new and exciting operation for us. So yeah, really, really interesting.
Nice, mate. All right. Well, thanks for all that info. As I said, it's great to hear what you've been up to and how successful it's been. It's really cool. So I don't know if some of you guys have been following me. I posted on social media the other day. I had an idea and I said, I posted this and it went crazy. I think we had 150 people comment, and I was really surprised by how many people are kind of interested in getting started in the pay-per-lead space. So I posted this, and I'm going to extend it a little bit longer. So I'm looking for about another 10 or so people, retainer style agency owners, people that might be listening to this call. And I want me and my team, I can't take all of these calls. I'll try and get on some, but me and my team will help you land one pay-per-lead client for free. So this would mean a 30-minute call, and we can discuss your business, run through what you're doing, the contacts that you have, as Stephen was saying before, the people that you might have in your network that you can touch base with, how to put the offer in front of them and explain it in a way that will help you land a pay-per-lead client. And then we're going to, map out an action plan for you to implement in order to land that first, national client. And, as Stephen has just, proven, one national client alone could replace your agency income very, very quickly. So there's a link below this video. Hopefully Ari's listening, and yeah, she has posted it in the group. There'll be a link there. You can also copy that link. It's pretty easy to copy. And just book a call in, and we'll have a look at your situation and we'll try and help you. So, you know, no catch. It's a call. Obviously, if you are looking to accelerate and speed things up and join our program, then, you know, you're going to have that opportunity. If you want to learn from the mistakes we've made and accelerate and do this faster than you would yourself, then, you know, we're going to give you that opportunity. There's no denying that fact, but, you know, there's no catches, there's no strings to this offer. All right, so I'm going to go, it's a Q&A now. Ask away, ask some questions. I'll answer some, Stephen will answer some. I'm going to get back to this screen here so you guys can continue to see the link and book that call in. But let's go through some of these questions now and we'll see who's going to answer them. So 2 questions. Do you ever lose the burner URL with sending out 500 emails a day? Also, what ad network are you using to run agency ads to book calls? That's for you, Stephen.
Lose the burner URL with sending out 500. Not lost it, no. Deliverability probably has suffered over time, but that's the whole point of the burner URL, really. That's why I did it. So if it goes, I can replace it with another one. And then ad network and using to run your agency ads to book calls. Facebook.
Facebook, yeah. Nice. One last question. Are you worried the client will steal your ad creative?
No. Creative and copy is easily replicable. We're running ads into the public domain, so someone is going to see it. I've had clients tag their business partners in our actual ads that we've done. And, you know, as part of compliance, we do have to tell them which websites at least we're using. So it's not difficult to reverse engineer our funnel in effect. But ultimately, if you're providing great quality leads at a reasonable, you know, a fair cost for you and for the client, I don't think they'll care. And there's always someone else who you can go out to buy them. If some client A went and ripped you off, A, they probably wouldn't be able to do it long term and get the results that you could, and B, just go and sell them to the nearest competitor and really piss them off that way.
Yeah. And yeah, they might be able to copy your creative, but what goes on in the funnel is some pretty high level shit, right? So, you know, you spoke about Twilio and the postcode tool you were using before. You're speaking about customizing thank you pages. You're looking at verification of phone numbers. You're talking about pin opt-ins to increase the quality of your leads. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the background there that you can't reverse engineer, not to mention what goes on the decision trees with leads. You know, that's a whole other conversation, but there's a lot of, it's, you know, these guys aren't marketers. They don't know how to do this. It'll take them a year to even get close to what we've built and what we teach you guys. And when they get there, you know, you will have evolved to get another year in front of them. So there is a risk, but it's not really a problem from experience as well. All right.
Yeah.
How do you get the leads? How do you get the clients' leads within 24 hours? We answered that before. You're running through a brand that's already generating leads and getting traffic. So you just up the budget a little bit and use Leadbite to distribute to the next client.
Yeah.
Addict George has asked, when targeting a micro niche, say health insurance for middle-aged men, should we also create side-by-side micro niches for the client for middle-aged women? I think that's kind of what, I mean, I'm not in this niche, but I think that's kind of what Stephen's done. He's got like his overall brand identity, and then he's created a different strand of that brand for the different sub parts of that industry. So I would say, yeah, that's probably not a bad idea, but you wouldn't want to do that until you've mastered the first one, right? Because having two web properties is really, you know, it's another headache. It's another thing to manage and get going. So yeah, what do you think, mate?
That and I wouldn't create it unless I had a buyer for the leads, ultimately.
Yeah.
Unless someone was paying me for them, I wouldn't even pay any mind or any attention.
No.
You just let Leads Hook know that if anyone says they're a middle-aged woman, sorry, we don't have services to be able to help you right now.
Yeah.
That's it.
What usually happens is a client that you get results for, we're like, oh, actually, we've got this other product that we want to test with you guys. And that's when when they can pay for it and you risk their money rather than your own. And then I'd go back to a hybrid deal and say, yeah, we're not in that, but we can build it for you, but we're not risking any of that, any of your own money. Pay us on conversions, and then we can reassess after 30 days or something like that. So yeah, don't try and do too much too early. Are you using Leads Hook to qualify leads before they send to clients? 100%. Yeah, segmentation. What are you doing, mate?
Yeah, Leads Hook, probably one of the best softwares I've ever seen at the price point that it is. Like, genuinely, I can't speak more highly of it. Really, really thankful to be introduced to that software. It's something that we've been looking for years and never found.
Yeah, cool. When delivering leads to your client, is it common for them to request the leads pulled directly into the CRM, or is it more you provide the leads in a data sheet of some kind? How does this normally work? For us, anytime, it's normal. The guys that understand what they're doing and we're going to get an ROI on your leads are the ones that have a CRM, the ones that have a dialer and know how to SMS themselves and know how to get the most use out of these leads. All right. There's guys that are very, very good at what they do. They're the ones that are going to start ordering volume from you. You do get the occasional client that will want it via Google Sheets or whatever. And you also get some clients that want it delivered via email. And usually that's a sign that they're not going to really make it work. But what that does give you is an opportunity to help these clients. And by that, I mean help. You can start looking after their SMS and their email and these systems that are going to help grow their business. And when you are able to do that, oh my goodness, they're going to love you and they're never going to leave you. And there's tools that are coming to the marketplace now, like Go High Level or Close.com, where a lot of this stuff can be done very quickly and in a repeatable manner for these kind of clients that haven't got the ability or haven't worked on the follow-up sequences. And, they might make it work initially, but then you can start upselling these services and charge them a monthly fee for that on top of your leads. So whenever you run into problems like that, it creates an opportunity for you to help these businesses and these clients. And that's what it's all about, helping them grow their business. And if you can wrap your head around that, then you're doing pretty well. Okay. What else we got here? How do you maintain lead quality? That's a good one.
Yeah. Leads Hook does a lot of that for us. So that keeps us only bringing in quality. We diversify networks. So we're not just putting all our eggs in one basket. We're constantly updating creative, like, we're doing new things with our ads all the time. And ultimately, it's about making sure that we've got a marketplace which is big enough to support the scale that we're in. If we were being very specific about the type of client and the type of leads we're generating and then tried to sell them at scale to 32, 36 clients, we probably shoot ourselves in the foot. So we ensure that the marketplace is big enough to support our growth, or charge accordingly if it's not. So yeah, they're the sort of things that I would do to maintain lead quality with clients. And then the other thing is we're pretty honest with clients, and we have, and Dan teaches in the course to be pretty, pretty generous in regards to your scrub rate, and we're pretty good with clients on that. If they come back to us and say, X, Y, Z regarding a lead, we use our discretion. But if it's the sake of replacing a lead to maintain a great client relationship, we'll just do it. Ultimately, it's a judgment call, and it's how you run your business.
Yeah. This question isn't here, but I'm interested to see where you guys are at. So let's say you're selling what's your average sale price per lead, and what's the average price you're generating those leads for, just so people can understand what to expect in the pay per lead game.
So we are currently around somewhere in between £50 sterling and £100 per lead.
Yeah.
And our average CPL at the minute, I messaged you before actually about them. We're bringing in leads between £8 and £14 each.
Wow. That's like probably 75% gross profit margin on average, would you say?
Yeah.
Okay. Significant.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, that's based on the last few weeks. I reckon if we averaged it out, it'd be maybe more like 20. But, you know, honestly, there's such a decent amount of profit to be had in these types of circles. If you can run ads semi-respectably and deliver quality to clients, then it, like I said before, it's a hugely profitable enterprise for us, and it's completely changed the way that we do business.
Yep, cool. So what do you pitch to the Facebook group in order to get those partners? I think that's what Steve Young's asking.
Oh yeah. If I'm honest with you, I've spent some time studying with a gentleman called Frank Kern, and Frank Kern a few years ago brought out a product called the Perfect Webinar Pitch, and that's literally what I use to the letter. I follow that framework. So that's about framing yourself in a correct manner. You deliver 3 core truths or 3 pillars that, you know, get you the results that you want, and you create a timely and relevant offer to those people at the end of your pitch. That's the basic structure of it. It's value first, always.
Okay, so are you how do you present, like, do you pre-record a webinar or something for them, or
depends? Like, some of them I'll do like a live Q&A with an offer at the end. Some of them I'll do like a pre-recorded pitch.
Yeah.
Some of them I'll just do content, like here's a video series, and then almost do like a mini sales letter in the post of that, where it's shared in the group to kind of sell them on to getting a booking a call with us. You know, we've done a Q&A with a group owner before. So I've gone on with an admin from the group and just done a Q&A, and then he's given me like 5 minutes at the end to just kind of talk about our services a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, the various methods, and ultimately it's deliver value, position yourself as an authority, make a timely and relevant offer.
Yep. How do you get clients from other markets or country, possibly to sell to tier 1 market if we operate in Asia? Do I need to hire a team? All right, so Steve might be somewhere in Asia by the sounds of it. How does he sell leads in America? Well, the first thing is, I bet you the market's pretty open to something like this in the country that you're in. It's just the media is a lot cheaper and you might not get paid as much per lead, but I still think the margins will be there. So I would not always try and go, you know, see what happens in your own country, Steve. Give that a go and see what happens. But what do you think, Stephen, about if he wants to move into the US or the UK or Canada or Australia or something like that?
You don't need a sales team in order to sell into that market at all. You know, Skype, Zoom, all these things exist for us to be able to sell seamlessly into that service, and we have done at scale. And you know, from a sales, you know, a client perspective, you know, we run ads we don't run ads for our agency services in the US yet, just because we haven't needed to, but I know we could very easily and quickly pick up a client either through partners or through ads without any problems. And, you know, ultimately delivering them a lead is, for us, it's as simple as creating a new delivery in Leadbite and just sending them their leads. You know, it's pretty straightforward.
Yep. Thanks for answering, Adit. Can you advise selling the non-leads? All right, so this is back to the life insurance thing. So the women HI to another client. So that's what you Leadbite for. So let's say you create a funnel and it's a woman that comes out, then you can use Leadbite to distribute to the buyer that wants female leads. It's very easy to do, very easy to set up. It's great software. All right,
and Adit, just on that point, if it's like a very small percentage of the leads that are coming through your mail funnel that are women, because, you know, naturally, you know, maybe it's just like a very small amount, as opposed to trying to go out and win another client in a completely different niche and hit them with scale, you could go and find like just a hybrid partner or a back-end only partner for those leads, because there might be just a small volume of them, you know, sub 10%, sub 5% of your actual overall traffic coming in is that traffic, and then maybe only 1-2% of the actual conversions. It's just go and find someone who'll just pay you on the back end and say, look, we might get 1 or 2 leads a day, 5 leads a day, whatever the number is of this. It's not our main product or service. Can we give you those leads on a back-end fee basis or a hybrid basis, where you just cover our costs and then pay us based on conversions? That's a really easy thing to do. And when we were scaling, That's one of the things that I went back to our first client who we won on a hybrid deal and offered him. I said, look, we're hitting your numbers and we're hitting your numbers per day now. If we have any overspill that we can't get fulfilled with our existing clients, can I send these leads to you on our previous deal, which was basically all of our ad spend and a little bit of profit covered up front and then a back end commission? Can I send you these leads so that I'm never sort of losing money on my inquiries? So that's always an option.
Yep. Good one. Okay. Why use Leadbite, not stick to Leadshook? It can distribute too. Yes, it can distribute, but it's not really a distribution tool. It's a survey funnel type tool. So you can use it up to a certain point, but when you start getting serious volume, it's just not going to cut it, unfortunately. At this stage, you never know with someone like Nick, you'll probably build that over the next 6 months or something. It's just not on the same level. It's not, they're two different animals. Martin, I'm new to this industry, no experience or business. Already said I'm working a job right now with 10 to 15 hours a week to commit to this. Is realistic to expect revenue coming in 4 weeks? I think that comes down to you as an individual, Martin. Are you resilient? Are you one of those guys that tries to get everything perfect before you take action? Or are you someone like Stephen that can, just jumps in and, to use the parachute analogy, jumping out of a plane, that's what you need to be. You need to be relentless and hardworking and be able to take failure and be able to be resilient and come back over and over again. Revenue in 4 weeks. I mean, what do you think, Stephen?
15 hours of diligent work. Yeah, 100%. You could bring a new client on in that time.
Yep, I agree. Sorry, Tim, missed what you said about any leads, G Suite and WordPress for. Could you clarify that again? So that's for to grab clients, right?
Yeah, so any leads gets us cold email, outreach. G Suite just sends the email. WordPress we use as our landing page builder for our agency stuff, just because we've got a template already built for our agency website.
Yeah, cool. Benoit, I think that's the right way to say it. Commission is a percentage of sale. How much do you propose as a commission for referrals? It's a good question, actually.
Yeah, great question. I guess it depends on your margin. Like roughly where can you see yourself earning? What do you have any data on what your potential profit per lead could be or per order? And then coming up with something that's fair. So as we kind of discussed, we'll probably sit somewhere between the 75 and even at the lowest level 50% profit. So then can we share 10% of that with a partner, and are they going to be happy with it? Based on the fact that most of the time we'll do it on at least the first invoice, if not for a period of time on multiple invoices. So they only have to make that intro once to earn for the next 3 months, let's say. Yep. So there's the opportunity needs to be sort of realistic for you and also beneficial to the partner. If you're giving them 1% of the first invoice and they're getting 100 quid or whatever it is, then it's probably not going to be that attractive. If they're getting something which is weighty enough for them to actively go out and find you new clients, then it's going to pay you back. But you've got to be comfortable in your numbers in order to put that together.
Yeah, you need to be confident, because if you're giving away money and then you can't generate the leads for a good price, you might actually lose money. So it's probably for the more experienced person. You need to get stuff dialed in before you can start doing that. So it's a little bit down. Zach's, how long does it take to launch a brand? Can it be done in WordPress? Why Unbounce? WordPress is as fast with a good rig. Yeah, it can be done in both. We use Unbounce because it's just faster and the templates are in the program already. And we teach moving to WordPress a bit later on once you have some traction in that industry, because not everyone that comes into the program is a coder and can build websites, whereas with Unbounce it's much more drag and drop and easier to do. So that's why we've done it that way. And as you can probably tell, it's all about speed and getting going and bringing income fast with what we teach. So we just found Unbounce does the job, does it quickly. When you get traction, when you get leads, when your brand is starting to get a name, then convert to WordPress, then start thinking about SEO and start building a sellable asset. Tim Dixon, have you ever worried about having your Facebook ad account shut down? Yeah, that does happen, but I mean, it happens in any industry, it doesn't matter. Facebook are a bit of a nightmare at times, and we do have a lot of training in the course about how to set up stuff properly, what disclaimers to have on your site, your privacy policies, your financial claims and things like that. They need to be done properly. Otherwise, you do risk having stuff shut down. But you got to remember, we have a lot of experience here, and we can help you guys whenever you have problems. But any business that's built off the back of Facebook alone is probably not a very valuable business in my mind either. So that's why we teach other ad networks too within our training. And I know, Stephen, you're doing a bit on AdWords search at the moment, doing stuff on Snapchat. It's not smart to have all your eggs in one basket, guys.
That's it. AdWords search, YouTube, TikTok recently, Snapchat, Taboola this week has been part of my staff's learning for this week to get comfortable with the platform. So we'll never put all of our eggs in the Facebook basket. But the good thing is, in the course, you guys have given us some real good info on a range of different networks, and I passed it on to my staff, and they're gobbling that information up.
Nice, awesome. Zach, I read this one before and I was like biting my lip because I didn't want to get back to you, but all of the sectors Stephen mentioned require him to be FCA appointed or authorized. Same with Dan's sectors. I'm not sure how you know all that, by the way. And that's where all the margin is. Regulatory approval is a massive barrier to entry for newbies. It sounds like, I disagree with that wholeheartedly. Firstly, you can do a one-to-one type lead delivery situation where you can leverage the client's brand and their regulation, whatever it is they have. And you can probably answer this a bit more, Stephen, based on your experience.
Yeah, we're not FCA appointed or authorized, so no, we don't need any of that in order to work. And we were a newbie 3 months ago, and we still don't have any of those things. We've gone and delivered leads at scale to our clients without any of that, and are compliant still, but without being FCA appointed or authorized. So
and remember, for some of the industries that Stephen's in, the clients require to see the ads and sign them off before they get going. So they're the ones that have got their balls on the line, right? If they get in trouble, then they need to show that they've done their work. So all their eggs are in their basket, not your basket. Okay, it's what you said there is completely wrong. Sorry, Zach. All right. Jason, is this open to beginners, relatively speaking? Sorry, the offer of a call. It comes down to the individual. Take the call, jump on the call and see how it goes. But as I said, if you're not that type of resilient, fast-moving person, then you're wasting both our times. And it is harder for beginners. There's no doubt about that. So if you're going to book the call, be ready to do some work afterwards. Dan Baber, finding niche. Do you find interested buyers first or generate leads first? Always buyers first. Okay, we never risk our own money when we go into a new industry either. We always get a hybrid deal or something like that where the client pays for the ad spend and then we'll just get a commission on the sale. And we call that, there's a blog post we've just done on this and we call it the grandfather deal, where you kind of approach the client and you say, listen, we've got a lot of experience in this industry over here, but we've seen a big demand in this industry and that's your industry. And we're looking for a few partners that are going to be grandfathered in on an exceptional deal whilst we get stuff dialed in. And we won't take any money unless unless you convert these leads, and we'll just agree a commission on whatever that is. And yes, some people go, no, I don't want to take all that risk. And other clients go, wow, yeah, this is a real opportunity and it's actually an easy way in. And you don't, most of the time you don't earn that much money during that first deal, but it allows you to learn on other people's money, which will then allow you to go to their competitors and just, this is exactly what Stephen did. It's just a great way to learn with other people's money, and it's a win-win for both parties. Finding a niche. With your tech stack, can you send leads for the same campaign to different clients based on their geographical location? Are you talking about lead buy? Yeah, I can do all that.
Yeah, yep. You can do that really easily. We have a client who only buys in Ireland, so any leads that are generated for them before they hit as long as they hit the cap each day, get the Irish leads, and then the rest of those leads are distributed to the rest of our buyers.
Yep, cool. starting a lead gen website where the hook for the visitor is fill in a form, get contacted by multiple businesses. This is pitch a lot harder when you're selling the same lead to multiple businesses. We don't sell, I don't know about you, Stephen, but I only sell leads once. I don't sell the leads to multiple businesses. That's another model, but I just don't feel as comfortable doing that because I don't like, you know, maybe it's just a personal thing, but I don't like people being, you know, consumers being dialed like 100 times from 7 different companies. It just doesn't quite sit well with me. So that's the reason I don't do it. It is a viable business model and there might be more money in it. I've just never ever tried it.
No, it's part of our USP to clients is we only sell the lead once to you. It's never rang by any other person on our panel. And that is a massive selling point to most clients because they've been pitched to the ends of the earth on non-exclusive leads that are cheap and don't convert that well, or it's fastest to the phone that get the deal.
Stephen, what's the most effective way to identify a target niche? Well, we've done some content on all of this, you know, target niches that are kind of COVID, you know, robust. And there's a lot of industries out there that are actually booming at the moment as opposed to ones that are just dropping off the cliff. But what do you think about identifying a target niche and what's the good signs for a niche and the bad signs for a niche? And
Yeah, so for me, I'd consumed some of Dan's content already on niches before I bought the course. You know, the YouTube channel's got so much info on that already. And I'd looked at those sectors. And then, like I said in my presentation, I looked at where the paths of least resistance were for me, like where I could see, you know, there were niches that Dan had talked about that made money and were great for PPL that I had a really good or a strong into. Where I could learn about that niche at no cost to myself. I could, you know, spend some time understanding it and then move into it with a degree of confidence. That was the way that I did it. Now, I'm in a fortunate position where I had, you know, a decent network of contacts. If you don't have that, then, you know, finding something that has scope and scale, active buyers, profitability for all parties. So these are all things that, you know, when you're making a business decision, you need to look at, and those are the things that I would spend my time focusing on.
Yep, good answer. All right. What percentage of leads do you send them? Meaning if the lead drops before finishing, but you have contact info, do you send them those leads? Thanks. Well,
good question.
Yeah, so there's well, no, the answer is no, we don't. So Stephen might be different, but let's say they go through the funnel and the first step is they give their email address and they hit the page where they put their phone number in, and they don't do that. So you can actually put those people into a nurture sequence and build that database, a bit of email marketing, stuff like that, which will help convert them. So no, we you know, you've obviously got to be GDPR compliant over here in Europe, but in America it's a little bit different. In Australia it's a little bit different, but you can actually nurture those leads and cross-sell and upsell them and all sorts of stuff in order to get more juice and build that relationship. And if you're good at email marketing, that's a really good way, again, to build a brand that has value because you can build a large database very quickly. Yeah, so that's...
Yes, so we do something really similar to that as well. Anything that doesn't hit our requirements for being delivered to a client right now goes into a database and is remarketed to. One of the cool things that we've been doing this month, which Dan doesn't actually know about, this is kind of a bit of a reveal on the call to Dan, is nice. We take postal codes and addresses really early on in our funnel. Yep. If someone drops out, I've got an API integration with a direct mail company that for under 50 pence will send a mail shot to them to re-engage them to a different part of our funnel to bring them back into the process. So we send out a postcard to each lead that drops out at that point to re-engage them and bring them back in so that we can reenact and re-engage them at that point. So we've just been trialing that in the last 3 weeks or so, which has been doing really well. And, you know, we send out not huge amounts each day because we don't get a massive amount of drop off at that point, but we have to have a few fields for it to hit our criteria to do that. But then we send a postcard out to them to get them back in.
Wow, that's cool. So you've got to have their name and full address in order to do that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So they need to hit a certain amount of points from us in order to hit the API call to our direct mail partner, but it's literally a seamless transition. If they don't complete, it gets pushed to our direct mail partner, which then sends them a postcard within 3 days, I think it's delivery, for less than 50p. We've paid for the traffic, we've paid for them to get there. So another 50p for me is, and they filled out a very high percentage of our form, so another 50p to try and re-engage them to get them back as a lead is a small price to pay if we can bring them back into our funnel. So we're doing that now.
Very cool. So is there a number on that postcard which is tracked and distributed to certain clients?
Yeah, exactly right. So the URL is specific. And then when that lead comes in, we mark that lead as such, mainly for our own benefit, but then they're delivered to clients. We don't charge any more for them. We just know that they've had it, and we can kind of mark that and let the client know if we feel it's relevant.
Nice. All right. What's an example compensation model that you set up with the partner program leaders, i.e. 50% of sales? I think we kind of touched on that before, Eric, on the percentages you pay these guys. All right. Tim, do you use LinkedIn at all to find clients? If so, yeah, so that's kind of what do you call it? Any leads does, right? Scrapes email addresses from LinkedIn, and then you use that to be able to put them into a cold email sequence.
Correct.
Yep. Dan, I've looked at Go High Level, and I'm wondering if that works for others versus Unbounce. I don't know Go High Level that much, but I believe there's like a survey tool in there and landing page builder and all that type of stuff. I'm always very wary of things, packages that do everything, right? Because I know how hard it is to build, do one thing very, very, very well. And if you're trying to do, I don't care who the business is, it's very, very, very hard to do multiple things very well. So I'd always be a bit concerned about going after a kind of Go High Level type place for your traffic, when they're probably known more for their kind of closing and software sequences for sales and things like that. So I don't know, I can't speak for them, but I tend to go with the guys that like Unbounce, that are just designed for high levels of traffic with super fast load speed times and all that type of stuff. So yeah, be careful.
Yep.
What platforms are you advertising on? Do you outsource this? If not, is it easy? So, we run across YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. We don't do Snapchat. We do a bit of search. We do some GDN banner targeting and stuff like that. Stephen, I know you do some other stuff too. And for me, outsourcing is difficult to do properly. Okay, so I always say to anyone that comes into my program, try and do this yourself. Try and learn the advertising networks, and it's not good to hand that massive responsibility off to a third party that doesn't care or believe in your business. So be careful. It can be done, but for me, it's always best to try and do that in-house and hire once you've mastered it yourself. And it's not easy to outsource.
No, it's not easy to outsource. The platforms are relatively easy to get going on, but to master, like anything, takes time, and it takes practice. Yep. I still do. We've got 3 media buyers total in our business. For PPL, I did 100% of the media buying up until probably the end of April, beginning of May, and then I passed on a percentage of that. I probably still do 75% of it for PPL myself, because it's still relatively new for us, and the velocity and fluctuations of the ad networks are, felt by us. So I need to make sure that I'm on it and I'm really invested in it, so I make sure it works well. But like Dan said, even if your end goal is to outsource it, being an educated buyer of services is so important when it comes to things like media buying and running on ad networks, because if you don't know anything at all and you're trusting someone else and you can't quantify their level of knowledge either, that's a really dangerous place to be. So at least get enough knowledge to be functional, and then look for partners that you can bring in order to to help. Or the alternative is, although I know Dan's not a massive fan of this, I'm not a huge fan of it, is not like a white label solution, but a partnership solution where you go to someone who's already doing really well and work with them potentially.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Yeah, I think you're trying to build a pay-per-lead agency here, right? Probably the most important thing is the media buying part. So if you're not willing to do that, then you're probably not in the right space. Yeah. Henrich just said, is there access for the replay? Yeah, it'll be posted. It's going on to the Ninjas group. It'll be sent by our email. It will be posted to YouTube and on our website, or probably in the next 24 hours. Jason, I appreciate the price, Steve. Thanks, guys. The recordings, webinar, blah, 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 blah. Dan, Leadbytes and billing. How do you keep track of the clients and billing? Meaning, does Leadbyte notify you when a client is getting down to 20% of lead left so you know to reach out to them, or do you monitor each day? Yeah, so Leadbyte, we actually use GetCake, which is something we've been using for a very long time, but it's similar to Leadbyte. And you'll be able to see your clients in there, and you'll be able to see in real time the leads that are coming in, and as their volume approaches their cap. You can actually set a manual cap in there, so they'll hit their 100 leads, and then they can't get any more leads. The leads will just go to the next buyer and then the next buyer. And you just need to monitor that to the point where all of the orders have been filled, and then you just turn the ads off. It's as simple as that, really.
Yeah. So in regards to notifying, Dan, I think there may be some like email triggers based on thresholds in Leadbyte, but to be honest, we're in there every day.
Yeah.
So, you know, as part of our standard operating procedures, one of my team, Holly, she creates reports for clients each week on how many leads that they've got. And then once they've hit a threshold, so like it's actually exactly what you said, 20%, that's when we reach out and make sure they reorder so they have no downtime on service. But that's just part of running an agency and knowing where you're at with that type of billing.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not that big a deal, because if you're spending $5,000 a day on ads, you're pretty much motivated to keep track of your numbers. Otherwise, you're going to be losing a shitload of money very quickly. So it's a natural, you know, if you don't know your numbers, then you're in a bit of trouble, and you shouldn't really try and automate that, in my opinion. What about the Benoit? What about the respective GDPR when you transfer some private info? Do you need to tell people the name of the company that will call? So we have all of our privacy, all of our clients and everything in our privacy policies. That's the way that we do it. So people, when they opt in, they get a chance to view the privacy policy before, and they have to manually check that box and say, I am okay to become a lead, basically, as per the conditions of the privacy policy. And we spent a lot of money with some GDPR solicitors on how to get this done from a lead gen agency perspective. And we got that all signed off. I'm not sure how you do it, mate, but
same privacy policy, and then using Leadbyte's SMS service will tell them which which buyer they've been assigned to as well. So
yeah, Eric,
identical.
Why do you like Unbounce versus ClickFunnels? You know, ClickFunnels is good, right? But Unbounce just to me is well, I think it's faster to begin with as far as load speed times, which is important. And to be completely honest, we've just been using Unbounce forever. So it's a big change to move my kind of designer over to ClickFunnels, even though I could probably handle it. But Unbounce has just been really good to us. So that's what we kept doing.
They all do similar things that, you know, I get asked these questions so often as well. They all do similar things. Pick your poison, stick with it, use it, enjoy it. Like Dan, I'm a big fan of businesses that do one thing really, really well. And some of the services which have really wide ranging offerings can overlook some of their core things to build on different elements that they feel are more in tune with what the overarching masses want from their platform. And that's the key thing, is if you need a really quick page builder and that does building pages super well, then Unbounce does that really well. ClickFunnels is a great page builder, but there's so many other things that are surrounding it that sometimes some of the core features can be lost slightly. And that's probably the reason why.
Yeah, you're right. And the split testing functionality on Unbounce is just off the charts. ClickFunnels is a bit shit, really, from memory. Trish, I'm sorry to ask a silly question, but is there any way I can have a recording of this emailed to me to watch? Trish, you just join our Ninjas group and have a look on our YouTube channel. It'll be there tomorrow. All right. That's the end of the question.
There's just one last question, one last one in the actual Q&A, which was which lead distribution software you use, and it's GetCake Dan uses as opposed to LeadByte.
Yeah, again, the difference, GetCake's more expensive. And there's a reason for that. Okay, LeadByte is great, and it's for 95% of people, LeadByte is more than enough. Okay, but with GetCake, what you can do is you can monitor events. So there is event, you know, this is a whole nother call, but you can actually place event pixels on different stages of your funnel, and then use that to do a lot of high level data analysis. So for example, let's say you're getting traffic from Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and you're running traffic to an advertorial. And on that advertorial, you want to measure how long people are on there for. You can actually install like a 10-second, and Stephen, this is probably where you might want to get to in a little while, but you can install a 10-second pixel on that advertorial, okay? And what happens is then you can actually monitor which traffic network, even down to the ad, even down to the placement, which is giving you the best 10-second pixel fires. So if you're running traffic on Taboola, for example, then you can see that a publisher on Taboola is kind of getting, you know, cheap clicks and it's looking good. But unless you had event tracking within something like GetCake, you would have to get a lot more data to see that it's not actually turning into a full lead before you can switch it off, as opposed to being able to see quickly that they've made it partway through the funnel, and you can switch it off much quicker. So when you're testing lots of different creatives and ad networks and publishers and things like that, you can just move faster and you can also tie all that data into something like Tableau, which means you have the ability to really look deep into the data, and that's what gives you an unfair advantage over many other agencies out there. So that's the only difference between LeadByte and GetCake. But I have been speaking to Ant, who's actually in our program and very active within our community, about doing something like this, and I think he's up for it. So yeah, that's the
great.
Yep, that's the difference. All right, I think we're all there.
Great.
Any more questions, guys? I'm going to go down to the beach. I've got amazing content. Brett, thanks, buddy. All right. Stephen, mate, it's been a pleasure. Thanks.
Always.
Thanks for everything. Thanks for taking the time to do this. I think everyone has probably got a lot out of this. We've gone for 2 hours now, which is my longest one ever. You're a good talker.
Yeah. I try my best.
I'll catch you later, buddy. See you, mate.
All the best. Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.